Is Roe a super precedent? Klobuchar asked. How would you define super precedent? Barrett replied. After Klobuchar replied she was asking Barrett that question, she replied that people use super precedent differently. Barrett continued. The way that it's used in the scholarship and the way that I was using it in the article that you're reading from was to define cases that are so well settled that no political actors and no people seriously for their overruling, and I'm answering a lot of questions about Roe, which I think indicates that Roe doesn't fall in that category, and scholars across the spectrum say that doesn't mean that Roe should be overruled, but descriptively, it does mean that it's not a case that everyone has accepted and doesn't call for its overruling. I don't. Klobuchar went on to question why Barrett had said Brown v. Board of Education, the 1954 ruling that outlawed racial segregation in public schools, was a super precedent when the Supreme Court had not openly said it was. So if you say that, why won't you say that about Roe v. Wade, a case that the court's controlling opinion, and that Planned Parenthood v. Casey case has described as a super precedent? That's what I'm trying to figure out, Klobuchar added. Barrett replied while partially repeating her answer. Well, Senator, I can give you the same answer that I just did. I'm using a term in that article that is from the scholarly literature. It's actually one that was developed by scholars who are, certainly not conservative scholars who take a more progressive approach to the Constitution. And again, as Richard Fallon from Harvard said, Roe is not a super precedent because calls for its overruling have never ceased. But that doesn't mean that Roe should be overruled. It just means that it doesn't fall on the small handful of cases like Marbury v. Madison and Brown v. the Board of Education that no one questions anymore.